And we are live today. Just give me a second, guys. I want to double check we're good on YouTube. Vinny, can you verify our friends on LinkedIn if we've got anything on LinkedIn?
Yep, checking that right now.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We're live on YouTube, so there we go. We're fantastic there. I couldn't imagine that we're not live on LinkedIn. Vinny, got anything at all?
I'm working on it.
Don't worry about it. We're going to go ahead anyway. You know what? I have this tendency of not trusting technology where I should trust technology. So let's just go for it. So I am Jim Gast, and you are on No Law Firm Left Behind today. I'm Jim Gast with SpliceNet. I'm sorry. I'm just kind of repeating that a bunch of times today. Don't know why. But with SpliceNet Consulting out of Cincinnati, Ohio. And so I'm joined today by Vinny.
Hey, I'm Vinny. I am Vinny. You had me working here. I am Vinny, and I am also from SpliceNet, and I'm glad to be here today with Mark.
And I'm Mark Stahl. I'm with the managing partner of Stahl Legal, and I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the invitation, Jim and Vinny.
Yeah. Mark, I'm all over the place today. These shows don't typically go like this. It's almost like we want to cut and retake, but we're live, so this is just what it is, right?
That's okay.
We're having a good time this morning. Maybe it has something to do with the Mountain Dew that I'm drinking. I don't know. But anyway, No Law Firm Left Behind is here to help law firms be more competitive and help their staff and their clients. I'm sorry, their staff and their attorneys be more productive and efficient, and help you get more clients. We started this thing back when the COVID quarantines hit, and we've been on. Man, I think we've only missed like two or three weeks, Vinny, during the whole time. It's amazing, and so we're here for you at No Law Firm Left Behind. I'm gonna start off by saying there is a group on LinkedIn called No Law Firm Left Behind. It's a private group. If you search it on LinkedIn, you'll find it, and you can request to be a member of No Law Firm Left Behind. Doesn't cost anything. What do we do in that group? Well, it's just a collaboration group. It's a think tank group where we put all kinds of information for law firms that are trying to grow, law firm professionals that are trying to improve their careers, and so on and so forth. Anywhere from technology to security, marketing, business, finance, so on and so forth. And it's got a small group of 130 now. So it's a nice, tight-knit group. It's really important to us that if you want, join that group, and you can tap into all of the resources that we put out there during this entire time. Vinny, you have anything you want to add to that?
Not right now. We do like to have folks on there if you want to join. We're doing more and more each week, and we're trying to get more involved in trying to help folks. And we do talk a variety of topics. So.
Yeah, and that's why we've got our good friend here, Mark Stahl. Mark, thanks for joining us. We really, really appreciate you joining us.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be fun, Mark. Mark has done an incredible thing, and you can kind of tell by the title of this stream, Virtual Law Firm Startup During COVID with Mark Stahl. Okay, so the title kind of gives it away. Mark, that was an amazing feat. Starting up a law firm right now, this is probably the most difficult time that I can remember in my lifetime. Starting up any kind of business. I remember as a kid the Jimmy Carter gas lines, right? You know, I don't think that it could be more difficult back then than it is now to actually start a business. And you didn't just start any old law firm. You started a virtual law firm, which is a concept that many don't completely understand. That concept of a virtual law firm, the attorneys in that law firm aren't in one location or in branch offices. Mark, they're national and international. Actually, you had one overseas when you started. Carter was overseas.
Absolutely.
That was so cool to work with him. Tuscany, right? Was that where he was at?
Exactly.
That was so cool to actually help him while he was over there. So, Mark, what was the reason you decided it's just time? I got to start doing this right now.
Well, I was just finishing up exiting a real estate business in the Columbus area where I was owned and managed a portfolio of apartments, and it was time to liquidate. And as you know, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And I just happened to get out of the apartment business right as COVID was literally starting. So I was I was very fortunate there. But I knew that the next venture I wanted to do was to go and help build off of what I already have is a lot of knowledge about how corporations work, some of the challenges they have. It's never been more challenging to be a corporation today. COVID happens to be just one example of all of a sudden how managers had to pivot and deal with a whole new range of issues. But there's lots of those types of issues where they have to pivot. Coming from being a general counsel at large corporations, including Toyota Industries and Expedex, the distribution arm of International Paper, I got a chance to see a lot of those challenges, do a lot of international work, and I knew I could help a lot of medium and small businesses go and grow and develop the policies and procedures that would make them be successful. And so I went and got 3 other colleagues who were similar general counsels at large corporations who I trusted and valued, and and said, "Hey, what do you think of this idea?" And they bought in very quickly, and they asked a lot of questions, but they were very interested because they knew I trusted them, and they've built trust in me. And so we're a tight, small, cohesive group, and we're out there helping corporations already, and it's been phenomenal. It's been a lot of fun.
It had to have been a challenge. I mean, I can't imagine with everything that's going on. You can't meet as many people as you want to. There's restrictions in every state to do different things. Everything's I've resorted to meeting people and selling virtual through like Microsoft Teams meetings, and
Absolutely.
I just can't imagine starting up that way.
So let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Did COVID have a factor in your decision to start virtual, or was that the idea that you already had before?
Well, to be quite honest, I already had the idea of a virtual law firm, but COVID has really, as Churchill said, don't let any crisis go to waste. And this has been a chance for us to really let no crisis go to waste. Lawyers in large corporations oftentimes are effectively working remotely. They may be working at the headquarters, but the real issues in the business are out in the States and actually around the world. And so you're oftentimes working with the manager in Billings, Montana on a HR matter, or you're working with someone in Mexico on a trade issue or the like. So you're really working on a virtual manner. So we have a lot of experience working here. So it's really where the rest of the world kind of came to where we already had experience, and we're building off of that and leveraging that for clients.
That's an interesting way to look at it. I really never thought about that. I mean, a law firm it's not really the building, it's the people and it's the practice, and you're not always one of the people.
And for example, one of our team members, Kathy Keelahan, is the former Chief Human Resource Officer at Anthem, 50,000 employees. She was the interim CHRO twice over the years. And so she not only has the business experience, but she has the legal experience as the Vice President of Employment and Employee Benefits. So she's really been able to see a lot, and she can give people very practical advice. And that's what we're all about, providing practical, business-centric advice in a cost-effective manner. And that's really where Stahl Legal is all about, driving that proposition, because today it's nothing to see a bill with $500 an hour type rates. And it's very hard as a general counsel or as a small business owner to be willing to call people when you know it's going to be $500 an hour and there's no plan as to how much that might go. Once you turn that spigot off, you may not be able to turn that spigot off very easily. And so we provide alternative billing as well, and we are able to help people go and use legal as a tool. And that's really what it's all about, making legal be part of a management team's toolbox where they feel comfortable calling us, whether it be on a fractional basis, which we do fractional general counsel work, where we might be in 1 day a week, 2 days a week in a company, or we'll do it on a project basis or on an hourly basis. We're very flexible, but it's really all built around being a virtual firm. We can pass those cost savings on to our customer, and that's what it's all about.
So, I told you, by the way, everyone, I want everyone to know that this is not a scripted conversation. I mean, Mark and I actually tried. What's that, Mark?
Absolutely not. not. Although I do think I had
avoid
hair, like Jim. That's really what I was hoping for.
That's
but
just because Amazon didn't get the product to you in time.
Never arrived.
Listen, I intentionally, Mark, I didn't say this to you, but I intentionally tried to avoid you so as to not adulterate our conversation. Okay. Right. Now, at the very last minute, he's like, what are we going to talk about? I said, Mark, I've got some seed questions. Don't worry about it. I said, here's where we're going to start. And I said, based on what you're saying, what you say, we're just going to kind of lead. And if we come into a law, I've got some questions I can fall back on that, that we can. But Mark, on that theme right there, you said something, and I really appreciate this. And we have been seeing this not enough in legal because clients are clamoring for the alternative billing methods, right? The hourly rate is it's never going to go away. It's still incredibly valuable. It's also probably one of the ways that you can, your revenue is going to be grown quickest, right? In typical law firms, aside from like the personal injuries and stuff like that. But this alternative, tell us a little bit more about how you came to your alternative methods of billing, if you don't mind.
Well, we try to really go and put the billing method to what the customer needs. And so these can vary. We can do fixed fee. People are becoming, in small business, people like packages. It's all of a sudden very hip to go and offer a package. If you want this type of agreement, it's a specific rate, $500, $1,000. They even have different contracts, have different types of prices, which is kind of interesting. And then corporations, they're really oftentimes interested in, hey, I want you here 1 day a week or 2 days a week to go and help us be able to, really come and be able to bring issues. It never ceases to amaze me. Every time I go out to a client, people will stop and say, wait, could you help me with this? Could you help me with that? And some of these issues actually can be fairly significant and international in scope. And so I'm oftentimes amazed at if they were doing these without legal counsel, they're just taking on a little bit added risk. And it's always easier to prevent than to go and fix at the end. And so we're really all about preventative law and avoiding issues, whether it be avoiding an infringement on a trademark by going and just doing a little preventative practice and little preliminary searches and some filings.
Yeah,
it just makes good sense. And your insurer ultimately is going to love it too, as it really becomes part of a culture of the business.
So just stepping back a second, and I think the preventative stuff ties into it as well. But a lot of companies right now are hurting financially, and I mean they really
Absolutely.
are, right?
Yeah, they are.
And so especially smaller firms and such, and so how much of obviously your pricing plans and your preventative stuff, it has to offer a competitive edge for you, right?
We're about 25 to 50% lower than comparable lawyers at large firms. All of the lawyers on my team have had, very in-depth experience. They've risen to the very tops. Judy, Carter, and Kathy were all senior executives with Anthem, the largest of the Blues, Blue Cross Blue Shield I'm speaking of. And then I've been the general counsel of multiple $10 billion businesses and smaller businesses as well. So I've been a one-person law firm at, for example, Toyota Industries, which was about a $7 billion business, but I was the it. So people say, oh, you must only, be able to do it with 3 or 4 associates. No, it all comes right here. And I get to do it, whether it's sweeping the floor or it's ultimately negotiating the international contract. So it fits with my personality. I'm a doer. So I enjoy going and getting a chance to get my hands dirty.
Well, we got a comment here from Megan Matthews. Is it Matthews, Vinny? I can't see it. I'm not wearing my glasses. Matthews?
Matthews.
Yeah, I love the comment. I work for a virtual law firm. It's the way to go. And thanks for the comment. We really appreciate that, Megan. But here's the question. It goes right with her comment. Is it the way to go? I mean, has it changed your lifestyle?
Well, it has its pluses and minuses, but there is no question. You only had to look at the labor statistics last month to see 600,000 women dropping out of the labor pool. Oftentimes, people are citing, they're still doing the research as to exactly why, but many believe it's COVID related. There's this now, when you go out and listen to some of the commentators, there's a white collar, a blue collar, and what's now a pink collar. I believe virtual law firms are going to go and be able to help, because there's a lot of extremely talented women and men who have other lives. And one of the things that this allows us to do is to allows us to go and do the work we love. We get interesting work. I'm working on issues in Australia, working on issues in France. I'm working all over the world, but at the same time, I get to go and be able to also work and rehab my daughter's house down in Madisonville, which is something that I love to do, and the like. So this is a balance. I have to concentrate and stay focused when I'm doing one or the other, but it really allows people to go and have a life other than 50 or 60 hours of time at an office. And that is a long-term lifestyle change.
So I would go ahead, Vinny.
So I have a question. In your practice area, the corporations are probably more accustomed to you going to them or you meeting with them virtually, right? Or they have in-house person. How do you think this plays out in other practice areas? And obviously, this is just your opinion, but you're in the legal industry and you've probably have a lot of colleagues. But do you think it would be the same for somebody that deals with a totally different type of practice?
Well, I think that in some practice areas, such as litigation, or if Kathy is doing an investigation, this whole COVID and this whole virtual practice has made things a little bit more interesting right now because of travel. You peel away COVID and you get the courts back in order and back operating, because they're doing their best, but they have limited resources. And I was just listening to the Supreme Court Justice Pat DeWine, and we thought Ohio, Columbus, Cleveland, Cincinnati courts were really challenged. It's nothing compared to the more rural counties where they oftentimes don't even have connectivity. So the judges are going and talking to the justices and saying, guys, we got to get connectivity first. This isn't about processes. So it's a real challenge that you got to think about it. Not everybody's sitting here with 5G. And so we realize that. So I think it's going to vary across practices. But once we get COVID, I think virtual law firms can really practice in any area as long as you're willing to do some travel.
So let's have some fun for a second here, if you don't mind. So, okay. So a little secret here. Mark, we helped him start up his virtual firm from a technology perspective. And Mark, I'm just kind of curious, right? I haven't had this conversation with you, but we put a lot in front of you. There was a lot of technologies that hey, let's look at this. Let's do this. What you should do this. I mean, it's.
And we've come back for more. We've come back and asked you to help us with our cyber criminal or cyber liability policy. We've put a lot back in your plate, and you've helped us every step of the way.
That's what we do. That's what we keep coming. Bring more. But anyway, listen, of all the stuff, I mean, there's got to be one thing that you got to say is probably the most invaluable tool or technology or software or piece of hardware or device, or any of that stuff. Is there anyone that you can say, you know what, I wouldn't be able to do it if I didn't have this?
Well, I would say that just as a very practical matter, I would say that today with our smartphones, that really opens the entire world, and we can go and I can even draft documents if I have to and send them over to my virtual paralegal / administrative support, and they can actually go and prepare something, and we can go and do filings and things. So smartphone is probably the most, but going and having a really good document management system and the administrative support, because as you guys all know, because you're working with me on a regular basis, I'm not only going and doing the legal part, I'm also going and doing the business side of the deal right now as we start up to just try to manage our expenses. And having something like Cosmolex, and that we looked at a couple different matter management and accounting systems, and going and having Cosmolex has really gone and helped me put everything at least in place. We're still, as you know, sorting things out and trying to get my virtual accounting company, Supporting Strategies. Craig Feltner has partnered and is working with SpliceNet to become an expert on Cosmolex accounting, so they can help other law firms do exactly what we're doing. And it's a chance to really go and get my life organized, and I can go and close the book every night and feel comfortable and sleep, because there's a lot of potential liability if you don't have your trust accounts in order, if you don't go and do your billing properly, and if you go and, customers don't want to get a bill 2 years late or 1 year or 6 months late. Many of them have a 90-day provision where if you don't bill in 90 days, you don't get paid. So this helps me with little ticklers and reminders and keeps everything out in one spot.
Yeah.
And you guys have been phenomenal. I'd really want to shout out to Tony, Don, and Paul. They are my favorite hand holders. They answer my phone every time, and they have been fantastic. They even laugh because sometimes I don't even put on new software remotely. I go and I'll bring the computer over just to get a chance to stop by and say hello, and they'll load it there. And that's been a real godsend for me.
I don't have it here, but Vinny, before you go any further, I want everybody to know Mark has a secret weapon, and it's an awesome secret weapon that every attorney, every paralegal, every legal professional, legal administrator should take note on. He writes handwritten notes and drop them off in gratitude. I've gotten 2 so far. And every time I get them, Vinny, I've
gotten one. Yep, I've got the team has gotten some.
And his penmanship, by the way, is remarkable. My kids, you know why I know? Because my kids can't read it. It's
well, that's Catholic school for you. That's what Catholic school and Sister Kathleen in the 3rd grade. My hands are permanently scarred from it too.
but it's a secret weapon, and so this guy knows gratitude. Vinny, go ahead. I'm sorry, I had to put that out there.
Yeah, no, and
you're embarrassing me.
Definitely, it's been a pleasure working with you guys, and getting things set up. Mark, you've been spearheading a lot of it. Some of these things are things you probably never had to worry about before. Working in corporate, IT departments handled everything for you when it came to these types of things. And now you're making decisions, you're evaluating products that we're putting in front of you and everything else. You have
no idea how much hell I'm giving all my buddies that are still at law firms, how thankful they should be. I said, you guys should go down and literally kiss the rings of everyone in your accounting department, in your IT department, in your insurance group, the people who are your malpractice or professional liability policy. I said, you should literally kiss the rings, because you have no idea just how many little things are there that you got to go and make sure you've got them all buttoned down. I didn't mean to interrupt, Vinny. Sorry.
No. And you've done, I was going to say, you've done a great job in it. Almost to the point where, like, hey, maybe you can join the SpliceNet team one day in guiding
I'm always happy to talk. I love mentoring, and I always am happy to help people think about that next stage. So if somebody's thinking about a virtual firm and they want to reach out, I'm always up for talking to people and kind of telling them some of the challenges in things that I simply didn't know. There's a really great book out of how to start and build a practice by Jay Foonberg. And the challenge, though, is it's like this thick. And I started reading it. There's a lot out there, and especially around the rules of professional conduct, making sure that you understand that too, because that kind of goes and links in really closely.
Maybe we'll do a special session just on advice. Maybe people have a bunch of questions, I like that idea.
Yeah. I mean, you've put a lot of, I know you've put a lot of hours into this, and you put a lot of work spearheading it, and obviously your team has as well. They've all been a part of some of the decisions that have been made and a lot of questions. I know Carter has been very involved in a lot of stuff that we've done from a technology perspective. So
most importantly, I got to get this out there, Vinny. My team is awesome. This is, I may be the face of it, and to be quite honest, people will be like, why do you call it Stall Legal? Well, that's a whole story about the rules under the rules of professional conduct. Mm-hmm. I could call it Stall. I could call it Mark Stall. I could call it legal, law, lawyer, but you can't use any other word. So I was going to have potentially corporate in the word term. Oh, no, that's impermissible under rules of professional conduct. That's part of why it's called Stall Legal, but it's really a team. We're all about a team and making sure that the team wins. And I couldn't do a lot of things without their continued support.
So now that you've gone through it, you know, as you've spearheaded this and put so much work into it, for the average guy out there that's looking to potentially, you know, start a virtual law firm, is it doable?
No question, it's doable. I think about, you know, it's a little bit like the thought of when my wife and I was probably 24 and Kathy was just a little bit older when we were having a kid. And we're like, how are we going to possibly handle this other human? It's a little bit of experience helps. So having experience, doing this right out of law school, I think it would have been a challenge for me. But I've now gone and advised businesses for over 30 years, and my team members have advised people for 30 years. So we've seen a lot of, you know, people bring their problems to us, and they kind of throw the body on the desk and say, here, you resuscitate it. And we do. That's what we do. That's our job, is to help resuscitate it. But that gives you experience, and it gives you confidence. So confidence and experience help, I think, a lot in this, but it's certainly doable. It's just maybe take a little longer path.
Yeah, so I saw your post that said you had over 80 years combined experience for your law firms.
We sure do
for your lawyers there.
So okay, so two questions I think we should probably finish up on.
Okay.
So it's a two-part question, and they're really not. It's not a tough question. It's not a hardball. It's a softball.
That's what they always say. That's always what they say.
This is a softball for you. All right. So what was so much easier than you thought it would be? And on the other side of that coin, what was so much harder than you thought it would be in starting up the firm?
I think that going and making sure the hardest thing is making sure you've got the scope right, and make sure that you understand all the issues that are in front of you and make sure you're not missing any. So there are all these different policies and procedures. For example, a records retention policy. That's a critical document for a law firm to have. And for example, I've never had trust accounts before because I've always worked either at a corporation or at a large law firm. And I had an accounting team that would help me with trust accounts. So just making sure you've got all the issues and you're addressing them all is, you know, because you're always afraid you're missing one and one's slipping out in between the cracks and things. And then I think the easiest is to be perfectly honest, and this is not, is that we looked at a couple different companies to go and think about technology. And I regularly, as you guys have heard, although I'm showing my age when I say it, I'm a little bit of a technology Luddite when I get to the hands-on sometimes. And you guys have been absolutely spectacular in Cosmolex. We looked at Clio, we looked at Cosmolex, but it's been really helpful to go and have a team that kind of holds your hand when you need it, and then allows you to go and kind of let that bird fly. So it's been really good to do that.
We're not paying him to say that. I appreciate the remarks.
That was not paid advertising. It wasn't plugged.
Well, no, Vinny's been very hands-on, but Jim, the first time you took that call, you just had a spirit, and Carter and I went and got on a call later, and we said, that's the firm we're going to work with. That is going to be so much easier than a couple others that we had talked to that more well-known and have stronger presence in other parts of Ohio. We said, no, we're going to work with these. These guys are going to help us, and they're going to be more forgiving of us, but give us the support we need. So it's all the good stuff of the big, but working in a small team, and that's what we really like.
We appreciate that so much, Mark. It's I couldn't have asked for a better testimony. Thank you so much. Ask me the next sometime when we were together talking about how I won an account because of a parrot.
Oh,
I'm
afraid of that.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was really cool. Great.
He didn't walk in with it on the shoulder. That's definitely what he said.
It was their parrot. It was their parrot, and I walked in and I just got along with it. And nobody else could, and they just.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was surprising. So,
Vinny, I think that's on Jim.
What's that?
I think there's a secret comment there on Jim.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm an aviary fan. I love birds. They're awesome. They're my favorite pet. But so, Mark, we really appreciate this, and Vinny, so you want to tell people how this fits into the No Law Firm Left Behind strategy today? Why Mark's value proposition, what he was explaining, what he's done, how that fits in?
Yep. So one of the pillars of No Law Firm Left Behind is keeping your firms competitive. And I think that your strategy absolutely gives you a great competitive edge over others out there that have, having an office space and having a full-time office staff and all that's all very expensive, right? So you guys are giving yourselves not only a financial competitive edge, but you're giving your customers, you're giving that back to your customers, right? You said 50% 40 to 50% less cost than the average out there. So you're not only giving yourself that competitive edge from a financial perspective, but you're passing that on to your customers, which makes them happy and refers more customers, right? Keeping your customers calling is another thing.
They are happy to get our bill because we're really team players and work with them very closely and get to know their business. And they like that intimacy and that continuity.
Peace of mind for sure. Well, Mark, hang tight. Don't do anything. We're going to end the session here, but just sit tight because we'll go offline and we'll talk for a minute or two. But I want to add. Remember, there's No Law Firm Left Behind LinkedIn group. So if you're watching today, go join the No Law Firm Left Behind LinkedIn group. But we're here every Tuesday at 10:30 Eastern time. And next week, Vinny, we're doing. I can't remember what's the topic next week. We're doing. Do you recall? We're definitely doing a great topic. We're doing a technology next week, I thought.
We are doing a technology topic next week, and we're going to be talking about Microsoft ATP, which is Advanced Threat Protection. How to protect your email against how do you protect your email against phishing attacks or when someone's trying to impersonate you or things like that. That's going to be a great topic. Something that's grown more and more and more every day, and we really need folks to be aware of it.
Well, and law firms are now becoming a big target of phishing attacks. It's amazing how sophisticated lawyers can be the prime target of these phishing attacks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Mark, the technology we're going to talk about next week, it's part of the Microsoft Office 365 or Microsoft 365 products. It allows somebody like yourself not to worry about what everybody else in the firm is doing, right? And so it gives you a little bit of peace of mind. So great, thanks for reminding me that we're talking about Microsoft ATP, Advanced Threat Protection, next Tuesday, 10:30 Eastern Time. Join us on LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook. Thanks a lot, Mark. Yep. We really appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Thanks a lot. Right. Really appreciate it. Everyone, have a great week.
Have a good one.